Hi, I know it has been a minute since I have been on, but I'm going to just jump right in. My name is Latrice Bartley with Beauty and Purpose, and I'm so excited to just take a few moments to share with you. I honestly have just been kind of stealing away and just getting in the presence of the Lord. I kind of disconnected for social media just for a couple weeks and just really wanted to be intentional about some things that I have really been praying about. And so I just wanted to, though, I thought this was so important and I wanted to just share with you. And it's very simple. I wanted to talk today about following Jesus and, and what kind of brought this on. I've actually been thinking about this topic, but I was listening to an old song and I just want to sing the words to you. But I was listening to the Tasha Cobbs Leonard version. And it said simply, I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. This is the old school version. And it goes on, though none go with me, I still will follow. Though none will go with me, I still will follow. My cross I'll carry till I see Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. And so as I was singing this song, so much began to just flood my spirit because number one, I just want to encourage you, if you're listening to me, to make the decision to follow Jesus. I get very emotional and very just in a posture of praise and thanksgiving anytime I enter into October. I am going to be, I know you hear me say this so often, but I really am, but it's a work in progress to really just document Olivia and I's story. And so anytime I go into October, which is the month that she was born, our miracle daughter, Olivia was born. And it's also my son's Langston's birthday. She was born on Langston's birthday. There's just such a posture of praise. There's tears. I daily thank him, but October is very special because I know that I made it through Olivia's situation because I made a decision to follow Jesus. And I was thinking about what it means to follow. I want to talk about some aspects of that. But one of the things that I was just thinking about decision making. There's a lot that I could go with this, and I'm going to try my best to just kind of house it. But sometimes, in life, we make decisions not knowing the consequences and the repercussions that those decisions will have through our life. You can make good decisions, bad decisions. Sometimes we make decisions and we reap the fruit of those decisions 2 years, 5 years up the line. Sometimes we might not reap anything from it. Our children might, but decision making is so important. And I would even say it's even more important that God is in our decision making. I believe that's why the scripture is so important, acknowledging God in all our ways, and he will direct our path. And as I was just thinking about that simple song, I have decided to follow Jesus, what that meant. Car ministry, so y'all see me moving. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to be distracting, but I thought about how important that decision has been for my life. That decision has protected me, has hedged me, has propelled me. I've seen blessings. It does not mean that it was serving God has just been easy. Serving him is easy, but just because you give your life to the Lord does not mean that, okay, and now you just enter into this wonderful, luxurious, problem-free life. No, because I believe that's why in one of the sentences, it says, my cross I'll carry till I see Jesus. You know, I think about the cross. We all know Easter and how we watch the story of Jesus, but we have a cross to carry. We like to take the part of the blessings, and we want, you know, everything else. But sometimes we forget that part of following him is carrying a cross. But I want to just encourage you today that following and deciding to follow Jesus is one of the best decisions I ever made. I think about in a rare diagnosis of pregnancy, I didn't know a decision that I made at that time 19 years ago. That decision to follow Jesus transformed what my dating life looked like. It transformed my career. It transformed who it changed, and it even blessed me in who I married. And yo, when I say I made a decision to follow Jesus and no turning back, he has changed my whole life. And so I want to encourage you today to follow Jesus, because it's a decision that will change your life. It is a decision that will have effects until eternity, but good effects. And so I was just sitting here meditating, thinking about that, no turning back. You know, as I sit here today, is everything perfect? No. But y'all, I have no turn back in me. I want to press. I want to reach, you know, what God has for me. And I was thinking about, like I was saying, just Olivia, I could give you so many situations and scenarios, but I specifically just thought about Olivia's life and that situation, right? You know, when you go to a doctor and you're excited about a pregnancy, and you know, and you're wondering, will it be the little girl? Because I have 2 boys, and, you know, and you sit in a doctor's office and you never expect to hear you have a rare pregnancy and we want you to be rushed to the hospital to abort immediately. Those are not the words you expect, you know, and that moment defined the next 10 moments in my life. But y'all, I made a decision. I had made a decision 19 years ago to follow Jesus, 19 years from that point, to follow Jesus. I never knew, you know, the Olivia moment would come, in so many other moments in my life that I have went through. But that decision, y'all, it anchored me. I heard something, and I love it. It was talking about our armor. I heard one of my favorite pastors, Pastor Tony Evans, ministering, and he was particularly ministering on, I was listening to the Belt of Truth. He did a message on all of our armor, what it means to be shod in peace. But I thought about how he talked about, you know, when you're talking about the armor and putting on the belt of truth, and he just went through so much of what our armor, but specifically it talks about in there being prepared, you know, so that we can stand. And it even talks about that evil day, right? And so when we even hear the evil day, sometimes our mind goes to this, literally this evil day, someday. And, you know, I don't know what we think evil day. Probably sometimes we might even liken it to that monster, you know, or how people they have an image of Satan, you know, Satan as this, you know, person with a pitchfork, but that's not Satan. Satan, you know, he looks just like you and me sometimes, because he is the master manipulator. He knows how to camouflage, you know, and so he knows how to change up his look. But I thought about in that moment, he said, your day will come, you know, and so my day came, my day that I would have to take a stand greater than any stand that I had to ever take. But y'all, I made a decision. And that decision enabled me to stand in a place. And I want to share that specifically because you know me, a little bit of a nerd. I like to look up things. And the first thing that I wanted to look up was the definition of follow. And I want to share some things with you. When you look up the definition of what it means to follow, I loved so many of the definitions. One was to engage in as a calling or a way of life. I love that definition because I believe that when we're following Jesus, it's not a one-time event. It's a life's journey, y'all. It's a decision that you make daily to say, God, I submit to your will. I decrease that you can increase. I recognize my frailty to your superiority. I am desperate for you. There's not a decision. There is not anything in my day that you don't have priority over. In other words, you are my source. Everything else to me is a resource. And so I love that because I believe following is a life. Just like they said, following Jesus is a life pursuit. It's daily getting in your word. I don't think you ever arrive until we meet him face to face, but it's saying, God, here I am at your feet today because I've got to follow you. And I don't know what that means, whether it's in my workplace, whether it's in my business, whether it's in raising up these children and serving my husband in ministry or honoring our home and how I keep it, whatever it means, I've got to follow you in these various facets, and I want to do it in a way that honors you. And so I'm seeking you. And I want to say that because I think we're in a society where everybody wants to lead. You know, everybody is on their level. What's my next level? What's my next calling? We're all trying to get to this place or that place. But I believe the place to be is at his feet. I believe the place of leadership is servanthood, is on the floor, just laid before God, saying, God, here I am to follow you. And I believe that's when we become the great leaders, if there be such, whatever. We want titles, but I don't believe it's about titles. I believe it's just about serving him and allowing him to direct you. And so I believe in being a great leader, you have to be a great follower. And it's not so much in the way that we would look at it as, we look at it being a follower is bad. You got to define yes, but I do believe that we've got to follow Jesus. And so I love that definition. And then the other one is said to accept as authority, to obey. And this is again when you look up what it means to follow, these are some of the definitions that was coming up. And so it said literally to accept as authority.